The day Jessica's company launched, she stood on that stage smiling like she had built something from nothing. 500 people were clapping for her. Investors were shaking her hand. Cameras were flashing. And I was sitting in the third row. Watching. Waiting. Because everything she was presenting, the logo, the idea, the business plan, even the name of her first product, was mine. Word. For. Word. But I didn't stand up. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just opened my phone and pressed send. And within 6 minutes, her whole world started falling apart. But let me take you back to where this really started, because you need to understand just how deep this betrayal went. My name is Olivia. And 3 years ago, I was the happiest I had ever been in my life. I had just married the love of my life, Ryan. He was kind, hardworking, and genuinely believed in me more than anyone ever had. We didn't have much money. We were renting a small apartment in Austin, Texas. Ryan was working double shifts at a logistics company. And I was working part-time at a bakery while trying to build something of my own. Since I was 16 years old, I had one dream. I wanted to start a subscription box company, but not just any subscription box. Mine was specifically for women going through burnout. Working moms, exhausted professionals, women who had given everything to everyone else and had nothing left for themselves. Every box would include wellness products, handwritten affirmation cards, a self-care guide, and one premium item, a candle, a journal, a silk eye mask, something that said you matter. I called it the Restore Box. I had been developing this idea for 4 years. 4 years. I had a 47-page business plan. A color palette. A brand voice guide. A supplier list. A pricing strategy. A launch timeline. I had everything. The only thing I needed was funding, around $18,000 to place my first inventory order and build the website. And that is where everything went wrong. Ryan's sister Jessica had always been complicated. She was charming on the surface. The kind of person who walks into a room and immediately becomes the center of it. But underneath that smile was someone who always needed to be the most successful person in the family. She had tried 3 businesses before. A clothing boutique failed after 8 months. A skincare line never launched. A coaching business she quit after 2 clients. But she always had money. Her parents, Robert and Linda, had given her a lot over the years. And she was never shy about reminding everyone of it. When Ryan and I got married, I tried hard with Jessica. I genuinely did. I invited her to brunches. I asked for her opinion on things. I made her feel included. And slowly, I thought we were becoming close. So close that one evening, it was a Tuesday, I remember because Ryan was on a night shift, Jessica came over to my apartment. We opened a bottle of wine. And she asked me what I was working on. And I told her everything. I showed her my laptop. I walked her through all 47 pages of my business plan. I showed her my mood board, my supplier contacts, my pricing model. I was so excited. No one had ever really listened to me talk about this idea the way she did that night. She asked smart questions. She took notes on her phone, just so I can think about it more, she said. At the end of the night she hugged me and said, "Olivia, this is genuinely the best idea I've heard in years. You are going to be so successful." I went to sleep that night feeling seen. I had no idea I had just handed her everything. 2 weeks later, Jessica stopped responding to my messages. I thought maybe she was busy. Maybe something was going on personally. I mentioned it to Ryan. He said, "You know how she is, she goes through phases." A month passed. Then 2 months. Jessica had completely disappeared from my life, but she was still showing up to family dinners at Robert and Linda's house, still talking to Ryan, still acting completely normal around everyone else. Just, not me. When I asked Ryan about it, he looked uncomfortable. She just said you two had some kind of tension. I don't know the details. You know Jessica. I didn't push it. I thought maybe I had said something wrong that night without realizing it. I felt guilty, even though I didn't know what I had done. Meanwhile, I kept working on my business plan. I started reaching out to small investors. I entered a local women's entrepreneurship grant competition in Austin. 3 months into Jessica's silence, I got an email. I had been shortlisted. They wanted a full presentation. I was so excited I cried. I called Ryan immediately. He was thrilled. That weekend we celebrated, just us two. Jessica wasn't there. She had other plans. 3 weeks later, I walked into that grant presentation room. I set up my laptop. I opened my slides. And the woman on the judging panel, Ms. Patricia Hale, leaned forward and said, "This is interesting. Your concept is very similar to another application we received recently. Can you tell us when you first developed this idea?" My heart stopped. I said, 4 years ago. I have dated documents, emails, supplier conversations. Everything. She nodded slowly. She didn't say another word about it. I gave my presentation. I thought I did well. But I didn't get the grant. The rejection email came 4 days later. No explanation. Just, "We have decided to move forward with another applicant." I sat with that email for a long time. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. So I did something I probably wasn't supposed to do. I searched the grant winner online. The winner was announced on the grant committee's website. I clicked the link. And I felt the air leave my body. Jessica Coleman, the Renew box. The Renew box. I had called mine the Restore box. I clicked on her website, which was already live, already designed, already beautiful. The color palette was mine. Soft cream and sage green, exactly what I had shown her on my mood board. The product categories, wellness items, affirmation cards, self-care guides, 1 premium item per box, word for word what I had described to her. The target customer, women experiencing burnout who deserve to feel restored. I had written that exact sentence in my business plan. She had even used my supplier. The candle company from Portland, Oregon that I had spent 3 weeks researching and negotiating with. I sat on my kitchen floor. I didn't cry. I was too shocked to cry. I just kept scrolling. Her launch event was already scheduled, 6 weeks away. She had investors. She had press coverage. She had a team. She had taken 4 years of my work and built a company in 3 months with her parents' money. I called Ryan. He came home within 20 minutes. When I showed him everything, his face went completely pale. He said, "Olivia, this has to be a coincidence. Jessica wouldn't do this." And that was the moment I realized, this wasn't just about Jessica anymore. This was about whether my own husband would believe me. Ryan called Jessica that same night. She didn't deny the similarities. Instead she said, "Ideas like this are everywhere. Subscription boxes for women aren't new. Olivia doesn't own the concept of self-care." Ryan came back to me with that. And something in me went very quiet. I said, "Ryan." I showed her my 47-page business plan. I showed her my supplier list. I showed her the name. "Does that sound like a coincidence to you?" He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "What do you want me to do, Olivia?" "She's my sister." I didn't answer. The next Sunday was a family dinner at Robert and Linda's house. I went. Because I wanted to look Jessica in the eye. When I walked in, she hugged me like nothing had happened. "Olivia. I've been meaning to call you. Things have just been so crazy with the business launch. I smiled. I said nothing. Robert stood up at the dinner table and made a toast to Jessica, our entrepreneur. We are so proud of everything you built from scratch. From scratch. I picked up my glass. I smiled. And I thought, 6 weeks. Her launch is in 6 weeks. I have work to do. That night I made a list. Everything I had that proved this idea was mine first. A Word document dated 4 years ago, timestamped, saved on Google Drive, with version history. Emails to suppliers going back 3 years, with my business name, The Restore Box, in the subject line. A conversation with a business coach named Karen Wells who I had paid for 6 sessions. She had notes from our meetings. A rejected loan application from 18 months ago, with my full business plan attached. Screenshots of my mood board on Pinterest, created 2 years before Jessica's launch. And most importantly, a text message from Jessica herself, sent the night she came over, that said, "Tonight was so inspiring. Your Restore Box idea is genius. I'm obsessed with it." She had texted me that. From her own phone. I contacted a small business attorney named Thomas Garrett in Austin. He reviewed everything within 48 hours and told me, "You have a strong case. Not just for intellectual property theft, but potentially for the grant as well, since she may have used your materials to apply." I asked him, "What's the most powerful moment to act?" He smiled and said, "The day she launches. Maximum audience. Maximum impact. That's when we send everything, to the investors, to the press, to the grant committee, all at once." I nodded. 6 weeks. I could wait 6 weeks. The launch event was held at a rooftop venue in downtown Austin. 300 guests. Investors. Local press. Family. Ryan and I sat in the 3rd row. He still didn't fully understand what I was about to do. Jessica walked on stage in a white blazer looking like she had built something from nothing. She talked about her passion for women's wellness. Her years of research. Her vision for the Renew Box. I watched people clapping for her. I watched Robert and Linda wiping tears from their eyes. And then, at the exact moment she said, "I built this from the ground up, with nothing but a dream." I opened my phone. I pressed send. Attorney Thomas Garrett sent a formal cease and desist letter, simultaneously, to her 3 lead investors, the grant committee, and 2 journalists who had been covering her launch. The subject line read, "Evidence of intellectual property theft, the Renew Box, please review before proceeding." Attached was everything. Every document. Every timestamp. Every email. That text message. All of it. Within 6 minutes, one of the investors stepped outside to take a phone call. Then another. Then a journalist quietly left her seat. Jessica was still on stage, smiling, completely unaware. Until her phone started ringing. She glanced at it, mid-sentence, and something crossed her face. She looked up. And she found me in the crowd. And I just smiled. 2 of her 3 investors pulled out within 72 hours. The grant committee launched a formal investigation. Jessica never launched the Renew Box publicly. Ryan stood by me through all of it, and I think that experience changed something in him about who his sister really was. As for me? 6 months later, the Restore Box launched with a small but real investor, a feature in an Austin lifestyle magazine, and 400 subscribers on day 1. The first product I put in every box? A card that said, "You built this. Don't let anyone take it from you." Because sometimes the people who steal from you are just showing you how powerful your idea really was. And I never forgot that. If this story resonated with you, subscribe, because every week I share stories of women who stayed silent, stayed patient, and then changed everything.